Hello, and welcome to NexgenMinds, the informal but informative weekly Sunday podcast made for students by students. I'm your host, Maddie Clark, and together we'll start a much-needed conversation with students, experts, and other special guests about mental health. We'll bust some myths, find out what are the best ways to manage our well-being, and if all things fail, we'll simply manifest our way to sanity. NexgenMinds is part of an important initiative to draw attention to the mental health crisis unfolding amongst the future generation and to eradicate the stigma and taboo of talking about mental health. If you feel that any areas or topics discussed affect you, or you're simply feeling lost or overwhelmed, head to the NexGen Universities website for resources on how to cope, including the 30-day Mental Reset Challenge. This challenge includes short 3-minute videos to help equip you with a toolkit of useful coping mechanisms and ways to strengthen your well-being. So, without further ado, let's start talking and make a change. Hello. Welcome to this week's NexgenMinds podcast. Today I'll be talking to Will Furriello, a first-year drama student and founder of St. Gen production company, who's currently in the middle of creating his own film. We'll be addressing the topic of creativity and the role it plays in our well-being. So, without further ado, let's start talking and make a change.
Will, I would say you're quite a creative person. I mean, you're a producer, you're a writer, you're an actor, you're a composer, you're an acting teacher. You're basically that really annoying person that is good at a lot of things in the industry and basically can be thrown into whatever job they want. So, I mean, creativity is just like at the heart of what you do. So I kind of wanted to start this podcast by asking you what like creativity means to you.
First of all, that was very nice. I wouldn't go as far as to compliment me quite that much, but that's tough because I honestly don't think you can whittle it down to one thing. Creativity is well, everyone says it's an outlet, and it is. It's a big outlet for anything that's going on in your world, especially with mental health. I think that creativity almost offers an escape. I use it to escape big time. Like I'll be, if I'm having a tough time, I will just disappear for a couple of hours and then I don't know, like I'll paint or I'll draw or I'll write or I'll just do something arbitrary. But for me personally, I think creativity is freedom. There are no boundaries, there are no limits with creativity, and I think creativity represents at least freedom.
I love that. It's kind of like thinking. It's like that idea of like thinking outside the box. It's like there's no boundaries. It's almost a way of self-expression, and it can be whatever you want it to be. So when I think of like creative, it's so easy to get boggled down on creative is like art and music and film, but I think in a general sense, creativity can be so much more than that.
Yeah, no, I think it would be, I don't think creativity can be restricted to just art, film, writing, singing, anything like that. I think creativity is everywhere. It's in the way we move, it's in the way we speak, it's in the way we do things on a human level. And then in terms of production, I mean, houses, buildings, it's all very creative. Like the Shard, it's in the cars, the roads, literally everything. And even in nature, like if you see the intricacies in nature, I was watching something a while ago about the Fibonacci sequence, which is something to do with math, and I was watching this thing about Fibonacci in nature, and it was just a very brief glimpse into how intricate everything is. So I think, you can't, it would almost be offensive to restrict creativity to just what people think sort of society deems creativity as art or film or music or things like that.
And I think like when you mentioned the fact that you use like creativity as like almost a creative outlook, like it's almost like not quite meditation, but almost creating that headspace to like escape from everyday life. And I think at the moment with lockdown, that is such an important thing to do, because I think it's so easy to get bogged down on the everyday same old. You wake up, you do your work, you maybe go for a walk, and you don't have that time really actually to yourself and actually to express yourself. So have you found that now it's lockdown, you've actually started to become more creative?
Yeah, I mean, I think to a certain extent, creativity is a form of meditation. I mean, I don't know the exact definition of meditation, but I feel the outcome of being creative and doing a session at like 20-minute meditation are usually the same for me. But in terms of lockdown, I mean, we've had 3 in this country, 3 big lockdowns. You have all this free time, and I get very bored with free time. And if I get bored, I like watch movies and eat and just gain extraordinary amounts of weight. So I had to occupy myself. So yeah, I definitely feel like I've become more creative, and if anything, it's helped sort of build a stronger work ethic. Like in the first lockdown, I started a company. In the second lockdown, I was at drama school, and in this lockdown, I'm doing a film. Like I've tried to keep myself. Well, yeah, sort of. I mean, busy actually requires you to do something. I say I've done all these things, but
No, don't say that. Like you've achieved something. Don't belittle that.
No, I mean, yeah, I don't really know what to say. I can't sort of be like, yes, I've achieved everything. Aren't I awesome? But I'm not like, they sound good.
No, but I think like the fact that I think it's so hard to accept, like to say, you know what, yes, I have achieved something. Like I think it's so, I don't know what it is, but actually saying those words out loud, it's almost that you feel guilty for actually accepting that you've achieved something.
Yeah, no, you do. I think I think that is partly because of the way that our society works. We like things happening, but we don't like seeing other people do things that we want to do. If I went up to someone and be like, I started a company. Oh, look at me. Like, you'd think, oh, what a knob. Yeah, actually, like, it's not that big a thing. Anyone can do it. And this is the thing. Anyone can start a company. Anyone can make a film. Anyone can do all of these things. Like, I know people who have achieved amazing things during these lockdowns that are creative one way or another. And I think it just goes to show that anyone can do it.
And you shouldn't let lockdown kind of define what you can and can't do. Just because like our economy is kind of shut down doesn't mean that your creativity and your passions should be shut down with it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, don't. I think it's sort of tough to word this, but just because it's taking time doesn't mean it's not happening, is what I sort of have to say to that. Like, if you embark on something that seems to be taking ages to do, I don't know, like you're painting a picture that's taking weeks on end to finish one spot, or you're writing something and you're on your, I don't know, like 20th draft, which is on my film. I've just finished my 16th draft and I need to do another several. And yeah, just because it's taking time doesn't mean it's not happening. But also I think lockdown in many ways offers a better environment to do creative things than usual, because people live such busy lives nowadays that I think that can be very restricting. And if you're not directly involved in a creative industry like myself or you, I think it can be really easy to sort of neglect your creative output. But there's always these talks about restrictions, right? Like everyone's like, oh, I just don't have the time, or I don't I don't have the talent, and I think that the talent argument is silly. I think it's stupid because anyone like I'm not good with a paintbrush, right? For some reason, every time I paint a picture, it looks like a 3-year-old's done a finger painting. But embrace it, like use it to your advantage, and you can only get better. That's the thing. You'll never get worse if you do something creative.
So, I mean, I've got so many questions I want to ask you based on what you just said. So, like, firstly, I think like I really want everyone to like have some context on what I mean. You're talking about all these things you've done, and you mentioned the fact that like it takes time, that you got to have patience. So what like could you just like talk us through like what kind of projects you've been facing? So I know you've set up your NexGen production company. Like, is it a bit over a year ago now?
Yeah, originally it was a creativity hub. So I set it up in order to sort of shine a spotlight on young creatives, because I think they're often neglected in creative industries. So we were writing articles, doing interviews, doing podcast episodes on various different, very talented people, because I thought it was important. And then in March, I think, no, not March. I set it up in March, and then in around December, maybe early January, late December, early January, we set it up as a production company with the same sort of ethos going forward. So we still work with young creatives. That's the core of it. And this film that we're doing together I don't think anyone on it is over the age of like 22. I think everyone's extremely young, and everyone's just at the very birth of their career. So yeah, and it does take time.
What's probably been like the hardest challenge for you? Like how do you keep motivated when it does take time and you do face obstacles? Like what made you like A, overcome those obstacles, and B, like stick to?
Yeah, I don't. So I find it very easy to sort of drop the ball, and I do it all the time. And I think the main thing to combat that is external accountability. So by that I mean, like, you make a promise to someone that you are going to achieve what you've set out to achieve, and then you do it. Because if you don't do that, and you've just promised yourself that you'll do it, we're fine with lying to ourselves. Like I will lie to myself all the time. Like, I don't know, I'll put like a cupcake in my mouth and be like, yeah, I'm not going to get fat from this cupcake. Or I'll I don't know, I'll say I'm going to write the best like scene today, and then I don't. But if you promise someone else that you're going to do something, you create that sort of responsibility, and I think that's really important.
When you said I'm going to write a really good scene today, and then you said I didn't, it seems like sometimes we can be, especially when you're trying to do something creative, there's always that, I don't know about you, but when I'm like acting, there's always that kind of, what's my reaction going to be to something that I've just made? And I think sometimes we can be our worst enemy, because we're so critical of ourselves, because we're scared of what the reaction we're going to get, that we have to be critical first. And sometimes that kind of self-talk that, like, you know what, okay, this may not be the final product, this is the scene I wrote today, it may not have been as good as I wanted it to be, but it's still the fact that I sat down and I wrote something, and I channeled my energies into doing something that A, I love, and B, that is productive. It's so important, I think, to like really be kind to yourself sometimes, especially now in lockdown.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of myself, I find that I am horrible to myself with my work. But I use that to my advantage. Like I am actively horrible to myself. That's just the way that my brain works. I think it is important to criticize yourself, because it does keep you humble. And I think it's really important to be critical of yourself, but not to the point where, you know, you're sort of hurting yourself on an emotional level.
But I think like you said, also I think what's good with criticism, and not like just the right amount of criticism, it's like, what's it called when you give constructive feedback? Like constructive feedback to yourself, like some positives and some negatives, because I think there's such a balance between, yes, keeping humble, but also like you don't want to lose your confidence completely.
Yeah.
For people within the creative industries, rejection, I think, is like not a maybe. Basically you're guaranteed to face rejection at some point, not even in the creative industries, but in like life in general, but especially like with creative industries because it's so competitive. And I think it's such a key characteristic that you have to have is resilience, and resilience is basically the foundation for mental well-being. Like if you're resilient, then you can weather different storms, and that's like the foundation of actually having good mental health. So how have you, I mean, have you ever faced rejection, and like how have you like coped with that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think at least 90% of my work is faced with rejection all the time. It's sort of, you do get used to it. Like you get to a certain stage where rejection is just like someone giving you a pat on the shoulder. Like it's no big deal. In terms like when I was starting out, I used to worry about rejection a lot. So like, I don't know, when I was 12, 13, I used to worry about rejection an awful lot for the future. And I think the way you sort of combat that is, a lot of it is to do with your mindset. The resilience, yes, but mindset is really important, really, really important. Because if you go into a job, or say you're going into an audition with the mindset that, you know, or what if I don't get this, or you know, I'm scared that this isn't going to work out. I don't want to be rejected. You like, the chances are you will get rejected. Whereas if you go into it with a mentality of the rejection is an extremely likely outcome, it's what is most likely to happen. So I will expect that. I will expect rejection, but hope for exception. Because either way, you're satisfied. If you get accepted, bloody brilliant. You know, you've done it. You're in. Or if you get rejected, you're like, yeah, fair enough. You know, I was expecting it. It is what it is. Just move on and keep going. And it is that thing. You just keep going. Like nothing. If you really, really love what you do, and this applies to any job, I think, if you really, really have a passion, love what you do, and would do anything within your power to achieve a goal that you set with your career, I think you just have to keep going. You just have to, you know, put all of your effort. Or like, if that means you have to get I don't know, you have to do a 6-hour train ride and then a 2-hour walk in like sub-0 degree like weather in the morning, do it. Because if you really, really love it and you struggle, you'll build resilience, but also it makes it so much more worth it. Because at the end of the day, if you struggled achieving what you want to achieve and you achieve it, you'll say, damn, you know, I did good. And you can give yourself that sort of recognition that you really have achieved something. Whereas if you struggle and you sort of give up, or you say maybe it's not worth it, it's, number one, it's not meant to be. And I live by that a lot. If it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If you just give up, I think that opens the doorway to a lot of regret. But if you love something and you know that you're meant to do it, do it. And also evaluate why you're doing it. And I think that's really important. And that's only something you can sort of answer.
What is your why? That's something that like is definitely becoming a theme in these podcasts. It's like, what are your reasons? Because if it's just like to get someone else's approval, then sometimes that's not the best way, because that can lead to, well, you don't have, like, there's a sign that you don't have enough self-worth, and B, you're going to be tailoring your goals and your and how far you can go to what you think other people think you can do. And so it should like come from your passion, your love for something.
To some extent, I believe that if you go into something looking for plaudits, i.e. looking for recognition, and you know, you want to be loved by people, personally I think that's a very valid reason to do something. Because who am I to tell you that that's the wrong way to do it? you know, like if that's the reason that you're putting everything into what you're doing and you really want to achieve it, who am I to tell you that it's wrong? If you want to go into creative industries looking for recognition and fame, fucking go for it. I wish you the best of luck. Likewise, if you go into one of these industries to earn an inordinate amount of money, go for it. I mean, that's a brilliant idea. I think, you know, just go for it. But likewise, if you do it just purely because you love your craft, obviously, in my opinion, that's the best reason to go into it. But who am I to tell you that, you know, that's right or wrong? And I think that's something that we collectively need to learn, is that no one's right. We like to live our individualized lives, and everyone should adhere to our individualized lives. Whereas I think we neglect the bigger picture a little bit.
On the topic of like your individual lives and how you want to live your life, and relating it back to like creativity and like mental well-being, allowing yourself to be creative is allowing yourself like to self-express and like form your own kind of identity, because you're doing things that you're thinking outside the box. You're doing things that you're passionate about. You're allowing your thoughts to run wild and do whatever you want to do, and that kind of forms part of your identity. And so why do you think creativity in that sense is so vital for mental well-being?
Because it makes your mental state tangible. So, you know, everyone tries to deal with their issues in their head, so I believe you can never really understand it. Whereas if you write you write a book, or you paint a picture, or you sing a song, or something like anything, it makes your mental state tangible, so it helps you understand it more. And I think that's the main reason that a lot of art or creative things are done with a mental state as a inspiration. Because we need to understand things, you know, humans, we need to process things. We need to be able to say, I know what that means, and I know what I need to do with that knowledge. And I think that being artistic or doing something creative allows you to experience what you're feeling on the inside out in the open. And that can be a really tough process. Like at the moment at drama school, I'm doing one of my classes is a Meisner class. You literally sit in front of someone else in the class, and you make calls based on what they're doing. So like right now, if I was looking at you, I'd be like, you blinked, and then you say, I blinked, and then I'd say, you blinked, and then we keep going until there's another behavioral sign, like, I don't know, like, you're getting angry, like, I'm getting angry, you're getting angry, like, I'm getting angry, and you're looking for a pinch and an ouch. So you're looking to affect someone, and you're letting the other person affect you. And this has opened my eyes a bit to, it's not just all black and white. Like the other day I was doing this thing, and I was with a friend of mine, and he was just like, you itched your neck. I was like, oh, I itched my neck. It's like, you itched your neck. I was like, yes, I itched my neck. I just started crying. Like, why am I crying over the fact that I'm itching my neck? I was like, oh, that's going to require some sort of psychoanalytical debunkery. So, you know, it's never as simple as it seems, and creativity allows you to experience things about yourself and understand things about yourself that you are either repressing, denying, or accepting.
But I completely agree. I think creativity is like almost, I swear there's like creative therapy. Like I swear that sometimes they like journaling, like creative writing, and like actually writing your emotions down, and or how you responded to an event can actually like help you process emotions. Because I think sometimes, especially in such a busy society that we're constantly doing things, it's so easy to just get like carried away with our emotions, and we don't have time to actually like reflect and have time for ourselves and actually go, okay, what am I feeling right now? Like, and that can become overwhelming. And so I think allowing yourself to be creative is a great outlet for that.
Exactly. So this is what I mean when I was talking to you the other day, and I said, you know, we have to stop asking how are you feeling? We have to start asking, what are you feeling? we try to quantify things so we can understand how much we need to assist something, or how much effort, or how many resources, or how much of what we can do we need to put into helping you. When we ask, how are you feeling, we're asking how much of what I can do can help what you're feeling. But if we asked, what are you feeling, personally, I think, number one, it's more humane, and number two, it opens that dialogue more to the individual, because subconsciously, in the front of your mind, you're saying, I really want to help, but subconsciously, actually, you're thinking, oh God, do I really have to engage in this? So if you ask, what are you feeling, it opens that dialogue for the individual to express what they're experiencing in that moment, Whereas, like, are you okay, or how are you feeling? It's pretty much, you can answer that with a one word answer: yes, no, okay, bad. It makes you think. Exactly. It would, I think, also think it would help the individual more, because if you ask, what are you feeling, I don't want to say forces, because it's very sort of violent, but it encourages the individual to sort of push themselves into the space of coming to terms with what they're experiencing. And I think that's really important, because you can sit back and you can deny everything in your mind, and you'll never help if you deny it, because you build up resentment. Whereas if you are actively engaged with what you're experiencing on a mental or emotional level, you can understand it, and it helps, and it's quicker. You can overcome it. You build resilience. You're more powerful. You're stronger. You're more confident. You have all these things just simply by changing a word from how to what.
Yeah, and I think it's a great concept to explore, because, I mean, firstly, conversations, especially in England, are like, the British thing to say is, I'm fine, and then you kind of like make a joke, or like making it a sarcasm is like, I feel like everyone's, I mean, I'm generalizing a lot here, but it's quite a lot of go-to defense mechanism.
Yeah, I think that it definitely stems from this stiff upper lip culture that we have in the UK, and I can't stand it. I find the stiff upper lip culture quite tough to handle sometimes. Like, I was talking to my dad the other day. I was like, I can't, like, why are all British people so stiff upper lip? And he's Italian, so he's not. He's very much like, I am feeling this emotion, or like, I am feeling sad, I am going to go to sleep, or I'm feeling angry, I'm going to go to sleep, or I'm feeling happy, I'm going to go to sleep. Like, it's 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 a completely different culture. And this is also another thing. Everyone expects mental health to be the same worldwide, whereas it's really not. Like, you have cultures in your country which affect your mental health. You have subcultures in your country which affect mental health. You have subcultures in your country which affect your mental health. Like, I don't know, I moved to London recently, and I was like, I really struggled. I was scared, I was intimidated, I was unhappy. Whereas, I'd always lived in the countryside, and it was a very different environment, and I was sort of, in a bit of a bubble. And then I moved to London. It's the complete opposite to where I live, and I got used to it. And then I moved back here to the countryside, and I was like, oh, this is too quiet. Like, what's going on? I don't really know how to act. Like, there's energy, and this is the thing. Like, it changes. You'll have the overarching sort of culture in your country which will impose on mental health, but then in your immediate environment affects your mental health, I think, big time.
So do you think, like, part of it maybe is that in order to actually start processing our emotions, we need to accept that we have them. Like, we need to, like, actually confront them, and not, maybe it doesn't have to be verbally, but, like, linking back to the creative outlook, it can be trying to identify what we're feeling can be done through so many different mediums.
Yeah.
And I was gonna ask you about this. A drama degree or drama diploma, or any kind of course, is very practical. Like, acting is based on connections. It's based on working off each other, and working as a community, and working as a group, and working as an ensemble. And when you can't do that in person, it must be so hard? Like how have you managed with like the online Zoom?
Well, I don't. I don't. Hence my partial mental breakdown a few weeks ago. But you know, and it really is really hard. Pure, like, just because it's not even, it does, like, the acting is fine. Like, it's not harder or more difficult when you're doing it via Zoom. Like, sure, connection problems are a facet of it which make it a bit complicated, but it's just the fact, like, humans, we feed off each other's energy big time. Like, a lot of people are skeptical about energy, but I think it's a fundamental thing that makes us who we are. And I think we feed off each other's energies so much that we don't even notice. Like, and when you can't, when you're seeing these people every single day and you just want to be with them, you want to spend time with them, you want to help them, you want to argue with them, you want to hug them, you want to kiss them, you want to slap them, like, and you can't do that. It's just so demoralizing. Like, and also when you're doing something mundane, well, I'm not even going to go there, but when you're doing something that's quite hard in terms of your course, it's just like, it just starts piling on, and you're like, fucking hell, I'm doing Renaissance era literature, talking to people in a 4-inch box on my screen, like, what the, and it just gets so hard. But you have to get used to it, because I think it's going to be something that we have to experience a lot in the future. And also I think this whole COVID thing has been one of the biggest cultural shifts since 9/11. Like 9/11, in terms from a creative standpoint, 9/11 signified the downfall of the American dream and the Western world being immortal, and the Western world being powerful, and that's why it was so horrific, and all these poor people lost their lives, and it was a horrific time in human history. And you see it just ripple through culture nowadays. Like I was doing a play recently called August Osage County, which clearly depicts the downfall of the American dream, and a big aspect to it is 9/11. And I think that COVID is similar in terms that it shows that humans, in like, the human dream is over. Like, humans aren't all powerful beings. Like, I think it will bring us much closer down to earth, in terms of, because I think over the human arrogance has been gradually building, and I think that COVID has brought us a bit more down to earth. Like, you see it with all these beautiful different initiatives being set up, these fight for your rights thing, and BLM, and all these beautiful things coming out. And I think although some things may seem divisive, like the current political state of America or things like that, I think COVID has brought us more together as a human race, because everyone's experiencing it across the world, so we can relate. And I think that's a big thing. As humans, sometimes we struggle to relate with other people. So I think in the next 10 years, you'll see big booms in various things. You'll see a massive drop in oil use. You'll see a big boom in environmentalism, a big, huge boom in racial equality, even gender equality. You'll see many more happy faces around.
And like you said, like, yes, the last 2 years have been awful, but some amazing things have come out of it. And I think it's all about, we can look at these last 2 years, I think, and go, well, what a waste. What an absolute waste. Like, what have I been doing with my life? I've been inside. It's been an absolute horrible time. Or we can actually change our mindset and go, okay, yeah, you know what? it's a new kind of living. I'm, like you said, I'm on Zoom, and it's not as great as real life. It sucks, but it's a new normal. And actually, there's some perks. Coronavirus is also giving us a time to pause and think. And this is not, we're never going to be able to get this time back again. And so we can actually take this time and actually work, instead of looking at the negatives, like work on, like you have done it. You set up all these amazing projects that you haven't stopped finding things to do and finding ways to make positive changes. Has that helped with your mindset about COVID?
Yeah, big time, I think. Yes, but I'm also very, very conscious of the fact that, I live a very unique life. Like, I have a lovely family. My mum has been able to work all the way through lockdown. So I'm very, very fortunate. I have a lovely house, a beautiful family, 2 lovely dogs, great friends, and everything. But there are people who are much, like, obviously there are people who are much worse off than I am, and here's the thing. Like, I have people in my family. So half of my family is British and half of my family is Italian. My Italian family, my grandmother, my auntie, and my auntie's 3 children all live under the same roof, and none of them have worked in 2 years. My auntie has to feed 3 mouths. Sorry, has to feed everyone. Like, they have no money whatsoever. Like, they really can do nothing, and there's sort of this divide. I can see what it's like for people who are much less fortunate than me, and I feel awful. However, what I noticed is that, like, my cousin, for example, he's a gamer, and in lockdown he started rapping, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And he's actually done pretty well. Like, he's building on it, and I'm like, damn, like, here's a lovely guy who has absolutely nothing. Like, the world has just thrown pure shit at him, and he's really nailing it. Like, he's working hard, he's passionate, he's making things move, and the world has just consecutively thrown crap at him, but he still keeps going. And then I look at myself, like, I'm very comfortable with the life I live, very fortunate, and I'm doing all these things, so I can't feel bad, if that makes sense. Like, obviously, as we were saying, like, mental health, if you feel sad, you feel sad, you experience that yourself. But in terms of the life that I live, I can't feel any sort of resentment against the life, or I can't afford to allow myself to get hung up on the fact that I'm struggling with things. And I think a lot of people experience this. Like, there are always people who are worse off than you, but that doesn't mean what you're experiencing is easy. Like, everyone in 2020 and 2021 has had some shit thrown at them that is like potentially catastrophic. And I moved to London, I experienced some horrific things, but no matter what you're experiencing, you know that it will be okay. But also, don't neglect it or berate it because you think that it's not worth someone else's time.
Why it's so hard to talk about it is because you don't want to, there's almost like a burden, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm feeling sad, but I don't want to become someone's burden. And also there's XYZ who's got it way worse, but just because someone else has got it way worse doesn't make your feelings and what you're going through less valid.
Exactly. But it also doesn't make your feelings more important. I think that's important to understand. Like, you're experiencing bad shit, everyone's experiencing bad shit, we all need to help each other equally. Yeah. So I think community, I think that's the thing. I really think we need to approach mental health with more of a communal attitude instead of everyone's just sort of fending for themselves.
Like that community doesn't, I think is really, really important. But also what's so great about like finding a creative outlet is that you can find people who have the same passion as you and same community. And I think that's what's so powerful about being creative, is because instead of like being like, oh, I work as a banker, you work as a banker too, great, we have something in common. If you have a passion for banking, amazing, there you go, perfect. You can be creative in terms of like how you think about the next stocks exchanges. Like you can still be creative in banking. Like there's definitely ways you can be creative in banking, but the great thing about creativity is that you can find like people with the same passion, and then people with the shared interests, I think is so helpful, because it means you're not going through things alone.
Yeah, but it's really important, that sense of community on a much bigger scale. It's not just the fact that you're not going through things alone, but you become part of something bigger. You become a cog in this big spinning machine that is the community. And I think it's really important because it gives you purpose, and it gives you a reason to exist, and it gives you a reason to be there. And this is another thing. Over lockdown, I've become very sort of, I describe myself as a sort of existential nihilist. And not in like a sort of, attention-seeking way. Like I honestly often wonder, like, what is the point in everything? And I think it's important to be part of something bigger, so it gives you a reason. I don't, but no, I do, obviously, but I like being an existential nihilist because I let it feed my work, and I like being upset with things or angry at the world because I let it fuel my work. Like I try not to sort of ignore how I'm feeling. I try to fuel my work using it. But yeah, that's a very big conversation.
Question on that. Do you like feeling like you like being an existential nihilist because it feeds your work, or the fact that you have these feelings and your work allows you to process them? Is it which, like, it could be both, but what do you think? Is it because your work, you want to feel these feelings for your work, or your work is a great way of processing them?
No, so a big part of it is the drama school I've joined. That's been big because, like, a big thing there is let things affect you. And I don't think as a society we don't let things affect us enough. So when I'm experiencing a sort of heavy emotion, I let it affect me, and then I see what happens once it has run its course. But just to put it like into context, around March, I started thinking, what is the point, right? Because like in everything, and it's sort of that old question of like, what is the meaning of life? But I was sort of asking myself, like, I was looking at this chaotic world around us, people being racist, people being like abusive, forest fires and rioting and all of this awful thing, Trump being a dick, and all of these awful things happening around us. And I was thinking, damn, it's all kind of pointless.
And how did you work through those feelings? Do you still feel them?
Oh yeah, all the time. I wrote them down. It's a big thing. I'm writing books, so I write my thoughts into journals. But yeah, like I talk about all sorts of ridiculous things, and I said that I'd keep it a secret, but I've shown a few friends of mine. But it's ridiculous things. Like I described love as the linking of energies. And I think, but it's all ridiculous stuff like that, like very sort of smushy wushy, sort of wishy washy bollocks. But no, it did. That helped me a lot. And that's the thing. You have to. You don't have to actively go out and search for creative things that help you. Just start. Just do something creative. It doesn't matter what it is. Like you can make a pasta drawing, right? Or you just do something that isn't normal. And let it affect you, experience it, and then take it from there. look up more. We're always looking down, whether it's at our phone, on the floor, in the walls that surround us. We're always looking down. Look up. And it sounds like such an arbitrary thing, but there's a whole nother world when you look up. Go outside, look up. Instead of looking towards you or around you, look up and just stand there for a moment and just experience everything that is going on above you. And you'll be introduced to this world of just crazy shit that's going on, like birds having arguments and trees whispering to each other, and I don't know, like clouds like wrestling. Like you've got all these different things going on around you. You don't need to make sense of it all, just experience it. And be present in the moment. Don't worry about things that you've done. Don't worry about things you need to do. Just be present in the moment and experience the world around you, and something will definitely happen creatively. But also, it's just healthy. Yeah, it is. And that's the thing. Like, just even if you're just taking a pencil, if you're just taking a line for a walk, which is basically just taking a pencil and just doing a big weird line sort of across the paper and then coloring in the shapes that you see. Let it affect you, you know? Look up paintings, read books, watch short films, watch feature films, watch foreign films, listen to foreign music, do all these things. Just dance like nobody's watching. Just do crazy shit. Just, I don't know, like, you know, just do stuff that isn't normal for you, isn't normal for the world around you. Break the sort of system that you've got yourself into, and your life will change.
I love that. Just start. It's like that, like Nike advert. Just do it, because you never know what's going to happen. You're always going to be living with that. What if this? What if that? And if you just start and you just see what happens, it's liberating. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this week's podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.